Hi guys, I'm back again today with another video, and today we're checking out 19 weird things Swedish people do. So, I wouldn't know. I'm trying to think. I wouldn't know. So, I'm intrigued to see what they are. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell button, and let's begin.
Hey everyone! I hope you are doing amazingly. Today I'm going to share the craziest, most wonderful, and best Swedish traditions that I think you should try too. From how we cut our pizza to how we raise our children to how we sleep, here are some of my favorite Swedish traditions that I think everyone in the whole entire world should do. So let's get started.
What do you
We
mean
cut
cut
our
pizza?
pizza with scissors. This is also a minimalist hack because you no longer need to use a silly pizza cutter that you literally cannot use for anything. Instead, just use your kitchen scissors to cut pizza. Cutting pizza is such an easy and fun way to slice pizza. One of my favorite hacks for a happy marriage and a Swedish tradition that I grew up with is to have separate duvets. Having separate duvets makes so much more sense. It is so much more comfortable. You never
Thank God somebody talked about this because I need my own, or else, like, I'm sorry. You're waking up without one. Okay? You get your own duvet. I think this is a must everywhere in the world. Unless your duvet is like w- uh a mile long, right? I know that's long. Like just get a long one that like drapes on the floor and goes on and on and on. But still, I just want my own that I can like tuck myself into. So I approve of this.
having separate duvets makes so much more sense. It is so much more comfortable. You never have to fight with your partner over a blanket, and it just makes a world of difference. If you have one duvet, it's big and bulky and it's crazy. Just try two duvets and see if it makes you feel any better. Speaking of duvets and bedding, the next thing that is really important that you should try that we all do in Sweden is that we have a duvet cover and a duvet inner and a sheet to make our bed. We don't have any top sheets, we don't have any blankets. That is absolutely disgusting. Sorry, but it is because you don't really wash them as often. You need to have a duvet if it's cold in your country, and you need to put the duvet inside of the duvet cover, and then you wash the duvet cover weekly, and this way you have a very clean bed. When I first came to New Zealand, I was taught about the idea of a top sheet, and you sort of put the duvet on top, but you never really encase it. But that means that when you move
Oh.
around throughout the bed, your body will touch the duvet inner, and you simply cannot wash that once a week because it doesn't last as long as if you do that. So, absolutely, if you have a duvet inner and it's cold in your country, put a duvet outer on it. And in the summer, when it's too warm, you just put the duvet inner away and you just sleep with the duvet outer as a blanket. Easy. One of my
I thought it was like that everywhere, but okay. Yeah, that makes sense because even like same with pillowcases, right? I thought everybody did that.
inner way and you just sleep with the duvet outer as a blanket. Easy. One of my favorite Swedish sayings is something like, there is no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. Very literal and very Swedish, but as a child, this was normally printed on our weekly mailer at kindergarten or at school, which basically meant for our parents to remember to put proper clothing on us because we would be outside all day, no matter the weather. I think most people these days tend to stay inside when it's bad weather outside instead of just going out there, but by putting on proper clothing, it makes it so much easier to be outside in all weathers, and it's so much better for your health to be outside and breathe in the microbiome rather than just staying inside and watching TV. Another Swedish health hack for you guys. One of the things that I didn't think was weird, but that became obvious to me the moment I moved abroad, was the fact that we don't talk about race. The first time I heard the word Caucasian, I was 20 and living in Japan, and before that, I had never heard any of these words, and it's just not something we talk about. Which brings me on to the next point, is that you never have to disclose this information if you, for example, go to the bank or going to the university. And that information is absolutely not necessary for the bank to know when I'm opening my bank account, and frankly, it's ridiculous. So do what the Swedish people do, I guess. Whilst we're speaking about politically sensitive subjects, let's speak about children. In Sweden, we treat our children with respect and we treat them as already humans, which is something I really, really enjoy and I think everyone should do. Kids don't have to address older people in a certain way. Kids don't really have to act in a certain way. Kids are really allowed to be kids, which means they're allowed to make mistakes. They're allowed to be upset. They don't have to hug someone if they don't want to. They don't have to kiss someone if they don't want to. Just completely reasonable things that I think every country should adopt. Kids are the best thing in the world, so I absolutely think we should treat kids with the utmost respect. Now, this one, I don't know if it's for all of Sweden, but it's definitely something I've experienced a lot of times. But that is people, when I get invited to dinner parties, people ask me, is there something you don't eat? My goodness, this has saved so much trouble having a dinner party or going to a dinner party. I normally tell my best friend when I go to dinners at hers that I don't eat coriander or cilantro because I really, really don't like it. And it makes it a lot easier. One of the most important Swedish traditions is being whole and clean.
I like the number 8. Yeah, we should start asking people what they don't eat instead of just like going with the flow and then them coming and then they can't eat something. Yeah, why don't we do that? I mean, it depends on a person to person basis, I believe, but it should be everyone. It shouldn't be like, oh, because I know this person, let me just ask them if they eat this or that. But it should be a thing that we practice all the time.
Now, what does this mean? This is a deeply rooted tradition that goes so far back in Swedish history, but ultimately it means to always present yourself as best as you possibly can. Every time we had friends over, my family would just massively clean the entire house, not because it was necessarily dirty, but it's so important to uphold the standard of being whole and clean in Swedish society. Another thing that I think is crazy that other countries have and that we don't have is that we don't really use the
Okay, number 9. I'm not sure about everyone else, but it's like a very Filipino thing as well. Like if I don't know, your parents' friends are coming over, you will have like a general cleaning days before, and you will bring out the best silverware that you never use just for the freaking visitors, right? You present yourself so well, you get dressed. So I guess that's similar in a sense.
is crazy that other countries have and that we don't have is that we don't really use the expression from scratch. Growing up, I didn't know that you could buy cake mixes. I had only seen it on TV. I had never really heard of it. I didn't know you could buy any sort of pre made food or something that we call halvfabrikat, which technically means half processed foods. Of course, this might differ a little bit, but in general, we don't say that we make things from scratch in Sweden. If you make a cake, you will make it from scratch. That is just how you make a cake. There's no other way to make a cake. You either buy it from the bakery or you make it from scratch. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we are quite a healthy country. One of the best Swedish cultural traditions that you've probably already heard about is fika. A fika is when you have a coffee, normally, or a tea, with a sweet treat, and you normally have it in the afternoon, but you can actually have it whenever. And this is one of the most common things we do when we go on dates or meet up with our friends. It's so cozy, it's really fun, but I also really like that it's one of the few things in Sweden where you can date someone or meet someone without drinking alcohol. Now,
Yeah.
fika means different things in different languages, especially in
Yeah, we just call it hangouts, I guess. In the whenever you want to hang out with someone, just like, hey, do you want to grab a coffee?
one without drinking alcohol. Now, fika means different things in different languages, especially in Italian, so I would use it with caution and use it only when you're in Sweden. Going back to childcare, another thing that I really appreciate about Swedish culture that you should try if you have children is co-sleeping. My parents co-slept with me and my brother. Everyone I know, I think, co-slept. My sister co-slept with me or with her parents when she was with them. And I've never ever had any issues, heard any issues, or hear anyone talk badly about co-sleeping. Co-sleeping with your baby makes so much more sense because you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night and go into another room. Also, your baby's brain is not developed enough to know that you're not in the room, which makes it feel unsafe. Co-sleeping is literally the best option for sleeping with your baby. My dad built this really clever little half crib that he put next to the bed with a mattress and made it level to the bed. So I could be in the bed, co-sleeping there at the same time as my mom was in the bed. Co-sleeping shouldn't be a term, I don't think. It shouldn't be a trend. It shouldn't be an idea. It should just be the most common way for sleeping with your baby. Another thing that
Very, very similar to like Filipino culture because new parents. usually do that. And they also have that cot wherein it's like there's an opening, or some of them just put the cot in the room with the parents, right? Yeah, that's how I was raised, and also my brother. So yeah, that's what we do. It's very common here to do that. Not they don't sleep in bed with a child because obviously some people move and roll, but that's how however you call it is in the room, right? They have like a crib for the baby.
Be an idea. It should just be the most common way for sleeping with your baby. Another thing that is common in Sweden but isn't very common abroad is that both men and women call themselves feminists. In Sweden, people are generally more educated about feminism than in other countries, and I really like that we use the word more casually, more educated about.
Look at us, where gender equality is closer to reality. Look at Philippines being there. I didn't even think about this. 10 countries scoring highest in the Global Gender Gap Index 2014. Okay, this is great to know because we're always never on top whatever, okay? It's usually the negative, sadly, ranking that we not frequent, but we're somewhere there, not all the time. But this one, okay, interesting. I didn't think Philippines. Nah, I think yeah, I think Philippines is definitely feminist. Yeah, not now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Both men and women call themselves feminists. In Sweden, people are generally more educated about feminism than in other countries, and I really like that we use the word more casually and without so much attachment to it that comes from other countries. A weird thing about Sweden that I thought was a bit very quite strange is that our school is a lot easier than any other school in the world. Now,
Oh.
I don't know exactly how accurate this is, but I know that in general in Sweden, we are very educated. However, our school, especially I think middle school and preschool, is a lot easier than, for example, in England or in New Zealand. We have way less assignments, way less homework, but somehow it still works. Unfortunately, this trend is changing and we're becoming a bit more like the rest of the world, but I really think homework is ridiculous and we shouldn't have it. So
Yes. Why we like you know what? Yesterday, so I was watching. I reacted to Rotten Mangoes. I will try to link it in the description. It's my other channel. I reacted to a teacher who used something to an 8-year-old student. Obviously, I can't say some words on YouTube, so I'm trying to censor. And their education system is crazy. She's 8 years old, right? So she has class from I think 9 in the morning till 2 p.m. And then she has 2 p.m. to 4:30. Like she will stay in school. It's called academy or something. She will stay in school, do her homework or whatever. And then from 4:30 to 6, she has cram school. And I was like, she's 8 years old. What do you mean she's in school from 9 to 6? That is a full-time job, right? What? So the education system is crazy, but then yet again, the last time we reacted to highest education, like the best education in the world, and South Korea was like number one. So I guess props to them, but can we make that for like high school and college and let the kids just be kids at least, right? So I agree with this though. Like, can we not have homeworks? Let them enjoy life because, like, imagine, okay, let's say a child who is born in South Korea, right, goes to school at the age of 7, right, until they're like 60, whatever retirement is. They've been doing 9 to 6, and also their working hours is 9 to 6, not 9 to 5. So they've been working for how many ever years at the age of 7 till they retire. They're doing 9 to 6 every day except weekends, obviously. And maybe on the weekends they have like violin class, they have like sports, right? They have extra stuff, and then they have homework to do on top of that. Like, where do they get time to be human and also be kids for the kids? I was just so baffled. Oh my gosh. But anyways, let's go back.
The rest of the world, but I really think homework is ridiculous and we shouldn't have it. So that's that. One weird thing we do in Sweden, but I think we shouldn't do, so disregard this one, is that we don't really date. Although I'm Swedish, I've never dated a Swedish guy because I think I've only had 2 Swedish guys ever hit on me in my entire life. But in general, we don't really date. We don't really have a period of dating where you can see other people, or normally you're just sort of not together and then you're sort of together. Dating in Sweden is very weird. That is why I've been so unsuccessful at it. And yeah, I find it a bit uncomfortable. And I think Sweden, in fact, should adopt how people date in other countries because I think it makes way more sense and it's a much more adult way of dating.
So what happens? Do you just grab somebody on the streets and be like, "We're together"? Like, what? I do not understand. Somebody please explain to me, or if there's a video, link it, um, and we can react to it because I'm totally confused. How do you become with someone and don't be with someone? How does that, without dating the person, how does it even happen? I just see this random stranger and I'm just like, Yeah, I like you. Like, we're now in a relation." I wish it was that easy, but somebody please explain.
It's because I think it makes way more sense and it's a much more adult way of dating. Something we do in Sweden is that we learn English very early. This also makes so much sense because it's easier to learn a language when you're young. And voila, most people speak English, which is such a useful skill to have if you want to live in another country or have any job where you don't work in Sweden. All right, so we're going even more political. Time for religion. One thing we don't do in Sweden is we're not really religious or go to church, even though Wikipedia might say otherwise. So this has changed since then, but when I grew up and my entire generation, we couldn't choose to be enrolled in the Swedish church system. That just happened automatically when we were born, no matter if we were baptized or not. We just went straight into the Swedish church system, which is also the system you have to be in if you want to be buried in a churchyard or if you want to be married in a church, if you want to get baptized in a church, etc., etc. So this is a quite fun fact compared to other countries because if you look at Wikipedia, it says most Swedish people are religious, but that's simply because we are enrolled in church. Now, say what you want about religion, but I, for one, am a person who thinks that we should practice what we preach. And since most people have lots of sex before marriage, drink a ridiculous amount of alcohol, and do all other sorts of gluttonous things, I think it makes complete sense that most people don't go to church. I remember going to church in kindergarten for our summer ending, and I remember my priest had leather pants and played a rock and roll guitar, which we all thought was very, very fun. We are a land of wonderful and quirky, weird, strange traditions. In Sweden, we have something called jantelagen, which practically means be humble, but also never talk well about yourself. So there are pros and cons about this law. It's an unwritten law, but one of the good things about it is
No.
that Swedish people are in general very comfortable and quiet, or maybe better is to say not loud people. So it's very nice to be around Swedish people. No one ever yells, no one ever tries to really be the center of attention, no one really, speaks really loudly. One of my favorite things we do in Sweden, which does not work in English, is that we don't really have a word for please. Now you can use snälla, which means like most kindly or can you kindly, or you can use tack, which means thank you, but we don't really have a word for please. I love learning languages because this is those little parts about a language and a culture that you won't really learn unless you know the language. So I love speaking English. I love using the word please. But I also love speaking Swedish and being able to sneak in a tack or a snälla where Swedish people normally don't and sound like the most friendly and polite person in the world. So it's a win-win. So, okay, my friends, I did not think we'd go this political. I have written this video down. It's very funny because when I translate these very regular Swedish ideas to English, they suddenly become so much more political. Swedish people are generally extremely nice, and it's such a nice culture to live in, and I think that's why so many people move back to Sweden when they want to have a family, because it's such a safe and reasonable and wholesome place for kids to grow up. And part of that is because these lovely and quirky ideas that we have. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I had so much fun speaking about my Swedish traditions, especially since I'm not in Sweden anymore. It makes me so happy to be able to share something of how I grew up with the rest of the world, especially the
Aw.
useful parts. Let me know in the comments below if you have any specific traditions to your home country that you think are really valuable for everyone. And like this video if you like this type of content and because it really helps the channel. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Hey, do
Bye. Well, she is beautiful. Smile, her eyes. Okay, now I'm just like talking about her. But yeah, she is. So maybe she can sneak in there. Swedish people are. It's not weird things though, but then she can just say are beautiful. But anyways, um that was really new. There's a lot of new stuff in there that I was shocked about, but there's some stuff there that is similar to how we do it in the Philippines. But for the most part, it was very different and new, but it wasn't necessarily like bad weird. It was just different, right? And let me know if you're Swedish. Let me know in the comments if there's something else that she didn't mention, or if you know about the culture, let me know in the comments what's something that she didn't mention. So, or if you're from somewhere else, well, let me know where you're from and what is something that you think is weird or different or unique to your country. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you in our next video. Bye.